Preparing for an interview with a platform like Mercor or Micro One, it can feel really different from the traditional job hunt experience.
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely different environment.
Right, because usually when you sit down for an interview, there's this expectation of connection. You walk into a room or log on to a video call, and there's, a bit of small talk about your weekend, maybe a friendly nod from the hiring manager when you make a solid point.
Yeah, there's a natural human rhythm to it.
Yeah.
You read their facial expressions, you adjust your tone based on their reactions, and you instinctively gauge how well you're doing in real time.
Exactly. You get that immediate human feedback. But in these automated environments, there may be no live human interviewer sitting across from you.
Right.
There's no small talk, no reassuring nod, no immediate feedback. You're often just looking at a screen, listening to automated prompts, and speaking directly into your camera.
And because of that sterile environment, candidates often struggle. I mean, even highly qualified people may find themselves answering too vaguely, or they stay silent for too long.
Yeah, or they give answers that just don't connect clearly to the role they're applying for.
Exactly. It requires a completely different approach to preparation.
So today we are looking at a stack of sources, candidate testimonials, tech industry forums, and general breakdowns of how automated evaluation systems often function. And our goal is to figure out how to navigate this format.
Which is so crucial right now.
Yeah, we're going to explore the common hurdles candidates face and share some practical steps to help you, the listener, translate your existing skills into a format the system can actually capture clearly. And one of the most interesting patterns I saw in the candidate testimonials really sets the stage for everything else. Someone used this analogy: taking one of these interviews is kind of like taking an open book test, but the automated system wrote the test specifically based on your personal book.
Okay.
And by your personal book, I mean your resume.
That is the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
You are the author of the material, so you should be the absolute expert on it.
Right.
Because the system often generates highly role-specific questions directly from the text you provided. So your preparation has to go far beyond just, memorizing generic interview answers.
Which actually brings us to the very first hurdle, and this one happens before you even log into the platform.
Oh, the resume trap.
Yes. Because if the automated system is generating questions based on your resume, then treating your resume like a standard keyword dump is a massive risk.
It is incredibly risky. Candidates often make the mistake of listing skills, software tools, or buzzwords on their resume that they cannot confidently explain out loud in detail.
Let me push back on that for a second, though. I mean, isn't it a deeply ingrained habit for job seekers to list as many skills as possible?
Oh, sure.
People are taught to optimize for keywords just to get past the initial filter on traditional job boards.
Yeah.
You throw a wide net to get your foot in the door.
It is absolutely a deeply ingrained habit, and honestly, it works when a human recruiter is just quickly scanning a page for familiar terms. But an automated system operates differently.
How so?
Well, it may treat every single listed skill as a distinct data point to explore. It doesn't just check a box and move on. It may demand a thorough, specific explanation.
So if you casually mention a specific coding language or a management framework just because you used it once 5 years ago, the system might center a complex multi-part question completely around it.
In many cases, yes. It often wants to know exactly how you used that skill, what specific problems you solved with it, and what the measurable results were.
Oh, wow. That could be brutal if you're unprepared.
Yeah, let's look at an example of how this plays out. A weak approach would be putting a broad term on your resume and then, when prompted, giving an answer like, I used Python for a project.
Which gives the system virtually nothing to work with. I mean, it doesn't clarify what you built, how complex the architecture was, or if the project was even successful.
Precisely. The system is looking for concrete data to evaluate your competency. A much better example would sound something like, I used Python to build a data pipeline that processed 10,000 records daily.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. The second example gives a specific action building a data pipeline, and it anchors that action with a concrete number, 10,000 records daily. It creates a complete picture.
Right. So if we connect this to your preparation, the practical tip here is to go through your resume line by line. Be completely ruthless with your own experience.
Ruthless how?
If you cannot speak about a specific bullet point or a listed skill for at least one solid minute, providing specific details and metrics, you should remove it or rewrite it. Just only list skills you can actually explain out loud.
Okay, so let's say you've done that. You've cleaned up your resume, you've removed all the fluff, and you only listed the skills you know inside and out.
Good first step.
Right. You log in, The interview begins, and the automated system asks you a highly specific question based on a project you listed. It's a complex question, so naturally you pause to gather your thoughts.
Oh,
And right there, you might trigger the next major pitfall.
yes, the silence. This is where the lack of a human interviewer really throws candidates off balance. Staying completely quiet while you are thinking about how to answer a difficult follow-up question can actually completely derail the interview.
Which feels completely counterintuitive. I mean, if someone asks me a complex question in a traditional interview, I might sit back, look up for a few seconds, and really ponder it.
Yeah, a human recruiter can see your face.
Exactly. They see that I'm thinking, and they'll just wait. They might even appreciate the thoughtfulness.
And that makes perfect sense when you are communicating with a human who can read your body language and social cues. But an automated system cannot always read those cues in the same way. It may rely heavily on audio detection.
So if you aren't making noise,
If you are completely quiet, the microphone registers nothing. In many cases, the system's programming may interpret that dead silence as the end of your answer.
wait, really? So you're just organizing your thoughts, but the system assumes you've completely wrapped up your point.
Right. It may prematurely cut you off and move directly to the next prompt, even though you haven't even started explaining your solution yet.
Oh, that sounds incredibly frustrating.
Candidates frequently report this happening, and it is understandably a huge stressor.
So what is the workaround? Because if I get a tough question and I just say out loud, let me think about that for a second, I feel like a human might judge me for not knowing the answer immediately. Does saying that make you sound unprepared?
That is a very common fear. But we have to remember the environment we are in. The system is not judging your tone, your hesitation, or your perceived confidence in that specific fraction of a second.
Okay, so what is it doing?
It simply needs to know that you are still there and engaged. It needs the audio feed to remain active.
Oh, it's almost like keeping a radio signal alive. If the signal drops to zero, the system moves on.
That is exactly how you should think about it. The solution is to narrate your thinking out loud using bridging phrases.
Bridging phrases? Like what?
When you get a tough question, you calmly say something like, "That is an interesting question. Let me organize my thoughts," or "Give me just a moment to structure my answer."
So the bridging phrase isn't necessarily about sounding profound. It's just a manual override to keep the audio gate open while you buy yourself time to think.
Yes, exactly. It is a simple mechanical fix to a very common problem. You just keep the audio flowing so the system knows you're still actively answering.
Okay, so you successfully use your bridging phrase. You've bought yourself time, the microphone is still open, and now you have to actually deliver the answer.
Right, which leads right into the next challenge candidates face: how to fill that audio space effectively.
Yeah, because once you start talking, you can't just ramble.
Exactly. This is where the structure of your answer becomes critical. Candidates often struggle here by giving long, unstructured answers, say, going well over 90 seconds without any clear metrics.
And I saw in the sources that there's a specific word that causes a lot of issues too.
Oh, yes. Perhaps the most common issue candidates report is overusing the word we instead of I.
Let's unpack the we problem first, because we are taught our entire careers to be team players, saying, I did this, I fixed that, I built this. It can feel a bit arrogant. Why does the system penalize teamwork?
Well, it's not that companies don't want team players. They absolutely do.
Huh?
But we have to look at the mechanics of how these systems often map information.
Okay.
The automated system needs to evaluate your personal technical skills for the role. It is looking to attach an action verb directly to a subject. If the subject of your sentence is we, the system cannot confidently map that competency to your profile.
Because we distributes the credit across a group, and the system can't separate your work from your coworkers' work.
Exactly. If you say, "We worked on a project to fix bugs," the system cannot discern your specific contribution. It doesn't know if you architected the complex solution or if you just organized the daily stand-up meetings.
That makes a lot of sense.
You have a short window to clearly claim your work, and using I is the most direct way to do that.
Okay, I see that when you look at it as a data mapping exercise rather than a test of humility. But what about the rambling issue? If I speak passionately about a project for 3 minutes, isn't that a good thing? I mean, doesn't it strip away all our natural charisma if we have to just speak in bullet points?
It does feel a bit robotic, and passion is great. But systems that evaluate spoken language often translate your speech into a text transcript to analyze it.
Oh, right.
A 3-minute unstructured block of text can be very difficult for a system to evaluate for specific competencies. It is actively looking for logical structures, transition words, and concrete data to understand the flow of your logic.
So clarity and chronological structure have to take priority over a long, passionate story. What does a weak, unstructured answer sound like in this context?
A weak example would be something like, we worked on a project to fix bugs, and it was a great team effort. There were lots of issues, so we all got together, looked at the data, and eventually figured out a way to make the software run faster over a few weeks.
I mean, it sounds pleasant enough, but you're right, it's incredibly vague. I have absolutely no idea what the person actually did, what specific bugs they encountered, or what the measurable outcome was.
Right. It gives the evaluation system very little concrete data. Now, consider a much better structured example. I led the debugging project. First, I analyzed the code to find the performance bottlenecks. Second, I rewrote the caching logic to resolve the errors. As a result, performance improved by 15%. That is the main process I used.
Wow. The difference really is massive. You used I right away to claim the work. You used clear transition words like first and second, which act as chronological markers.
Yep.
You included a specific metric with the 15% improvement. And I noticed you used a very distinct phrase at the very end. That is the main process I used.
Yeah, that closing phrase is a vital habit to build. Just as you use a bridging phrase at the beginning to keep the microphone open, you use a clear closing phrase at the end to signal to the system that you are completely finished with your thought.
Oh, it creates a clear boundary. It tells the system, I am done speaking, you can now move to the next prompt.
Yes, it is the perfect bookend to avoid the system lingering on dead air at the end of your answer.
So for the listener, the practical tip here is to keep your answers tight. Usually candidates aim for between 60 to 90 seconds. Speak clearly from the first-person perspective using I. Structure your thoughts with clear transition words like first, second, or next. Try to include a specific metric and finish with a definitive closing phrase.
Exactly. That structure gives the system exactly the kind of clean, organized data it often needs to evaluate you fairly.
But, it seems like everything we've discussed so far relies on one fundamental assumption, that the system is perfectly capturing every word you say, which brings up a physical barrier that can completely undermine a perfectly structured, metric-driven answer.
The technical setup.
Yes.
It is often overlooked, but it is entirely foundational. Candidates report that ignoring their physical environment, like using a bad microphone, sitting in a noisy room, or using an unsupported web browser, can cause significant issues.
I think a lot of people wonder if they need a professional studio setup. Like, does the system actually lower your score because it doesn't like your specific microphone hardware? If I'm not using an expensive mic, am I at a disadvantage?
Not at all. The system is not judging the brand, the cost of your hardware, or the rich tone of your voice. But think back to the text transcript we just discussed.
Right.
If your audio is muffled, if there is an air conditioner humming loudly in the background, or if you're using a Bluetooth headset that keeps dropping syllables, the system may struggle to transcribe your words accurately.
Oh, so if the transcript is full of errors, the evaluation will be flawed. It's like trying to grade an essay where half the words are smudged out.
That is a great way to put it. The transcript gets populated with missing or incorrect words. If the system cannot hear you clearly, it cannot parse your logical structure or your metrics, no matter how impressive your resume actually is.
So the practical tip here is straightforward but crucial. You have to treat the virtual waiting room seriously.
Yes. Most platforms provide a space to test your equipment before the interview begins. Test your camera, test your microphone. If the platform allows you to record a test clip and listen to the playback, absolutely do it. Make sure you are in a quiet environment.
Now, candidates do report that platforms may allow retakes if there is a catastrophic technology failure, like your internet completely dropping out.
They often do, yeah. But prevention is always the best strategy. You don't want to rely on a retake when you're already dealing with the stress of an interview. Getting the clean audio right the first time ensures your carefully structured answers are actually captured.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the resume, generating the questions, the silence trap, structuring answers with transition words, and the importance of a clean technical setup.
A lot to keep in mind.
It is. I think it would be really helpful to actually hear these mechanics flow together. Let's do a short role play so the listener can hear what this sounds like in practice. I will act as the automated interviewer, and you act as the candidate.
Sounds good. I am ready. I'll respond naturally, just applying the structures we just discussed.
Perfect. Let's start with a standard core experience question based on a resume. Hello, can you please explain a recent project where you evaluated complex text or data?
At my previous job, I was responsible for reviewing automated text outputs for a finance company. First, I read the generated reports to check for accuracy against our internal style guide. Second, I compared the data points in the text to the original financial spreadsheets to locate any factual errors. Third, I corrected the mistakes and submitted a final, clean version to the management team. As a result, I improved the reporting accuracy by 20%. That is how I handled that project.
Okay, stepping out of the role play for a second. Let's synthesize why that worked so well for an automated evaluation. Right out of the gate, you use the word I. You claim the responsibility instead of attributing it to the team.
Yes, isolating my specific contribution from the broader team's contribution.
Then, you didn't ramble or go off on a tangent about the finance industry in general. You gave clear, sequential steps: first, second, third.
Right, it provided a chronological map of my action.
Exactly. You included a specific metric, improving accuracy by 20%. And you wrapped it up with a definitive closing phrase so the system knows you are done.
It can feel a little direct when we practice it here, but in the context of an automated evaluation, that clarity is exactly what the system often needs to capture your expertise accurately.
Let's try one more. Let's do a follow-up question. Candidates report that systems often ask these to test the depth of your knowledge or how you handle unexpected variables. Are you ready?
Ready?
What would you do if an AI-generated answer looks correct on the surface but contains a hidden mistake?
That is an interesting question. Let me think for a second to organize my steps. First, I would read the text closely and highlight the specific sentence that seems incorrect. Second, I would open the original source documents to verify the exact facts. Third, if I found a contradiction, I would write a detailed feedback note explaining why the hidden mistake was wrong and how to fix it. That is the main process I use.
And breaking character again. That was a great example of handling the silence trap. You didn't just stare blankly at the camera while you thought of your 3 steps.
Yeah, the bridging phrase at the beginning gave me the time I needed.
Exactly. You said, that is an interesting question. Let me think for a second to organize my steps. You kept the microphone active, you bought yourself time, and you remained completely calm before moving right back into the first, second, third structure.
Staying calm is crucial. Follow-up questions can be tricky. But if you have a reliable framework, a bridging phrase, clear chronological steps, and a closing phrase, you can navigate them without panicking.
If we pull all of this together, the through line is really about shifting your mindset. You aren't trying to charm a human with a winding story. You are translating your real, hard-earned experience into clear, clean data that a system can easily parse.
That is the core of it. You already have the skills and the experience. Preparing for this kind of format just requires adapting how you deliver that information.
Let's quickly review the core steps for the listener so they have a clear plan.
First, only list skills on your resume that you can confidently explain out loud for at least 1 minute with specific details.
Second, expect role-specific questions. The system may pull directly from your unique experience, so review your own history thoroughly.
Third, when you answer, use real examples with clear metrics. And remember to use I instead of we so the system can measure your specific contributions.
Fourth, structure your answers logically. Use transition words like first and second and aim to keep your answers tight, usually between 60 to 90 seconds.
Fifth, use bridging phrases. If you need a moment to think, say it out loud to keep the microphone active and avoid being prematurely cut off.
And finally, treat your technical setup with respect. Test your microphone, camera, and browser in the virtual waiting room before you begin. Clean audio leads to a clean transcript. If you are preparing for a Mercor or Micro One automated interview and want to put these strategies into practice, you can download the prep workbook linked in the description. It has more sample answers and practice questions to help you refine your structure.